Hello and welcome to Not Now in Theaters. My name is Will Turntail. I'm a writer and film fan from California. This week's episode continues to blaze a path through John Carpenter's filmography. We're stepping into the void with his 1994 work, In the Mouth of Madness. Considered by many fans to be his best work of the 1990s and beyond, there's quite a so-called cult appreciation for the film out there. But I wouldn't say it's a unanimous fan favorite of Carpenter fans like They Live or something like that. A film that is like a tribute to the works of H.P. Lovecraft, it's a cosmic horror film. Something hard to adapt into a movie since mental horror is more straightforward on pages than on projection. So I'm excited to break down all the things about this movie. Before we start, a reminder that making films is hard and you have to respect that, so any of my criticisms are meant to be constructive. Also, this review will contain spoilers. I'll do my best to call them out for you when they come up. But you've been warned. Okay, let's get into the show. In the Mouth of Madness, 1994 review, John Carpenter, H.P. Lovecraft, and Stephen King in a blender. In the Mouth of Madness mixes three of horror's most celebrated artists. It's directed by John Carpenter, the villain is a parody of Stephen King, and the script draws on the work of writer H.P. Lovecraft. Despite this formula for success, the movie failed to sell buckets of tickets, and critics didn't have the fun they hoped for. But as if they are pickled and jarred, John Carpenter's films tend to age well. Many got bashed at their release, but are hailed as classics today. For example, The Thing or Big Trouble in Little China. And In the Mouth of Madness is one of Carpenter's more engaging later career fermentations. Carpenter informally refers to the film as the third and final installment of his, quote, apocalypse trilogy, with The Thing kicking off the end times, Prince of Darkness speeding them along, and Madness locking the doors for the night. Current critics, like YouTuber Chris Stuckman, praise Madness as a Twilight Zone-esque film that dares to try something different. But others see it as a confusing mess and recommended viewing only for, quote, Carpenter completists. So do we have pickled ginger here? Yum. Or red onions? Whack. Let's find out. Is In the Mouth of Madness a good movie? The plot of In the Mouth of Madness. When the world's most famous horror novelist, Sutter Cane, goes missing, Arcane Publishing files an insurance claim over his disappearance. Freelance investigator John Trent takes the case. Arcane Publishing director Jackson Harglow asks Trent to find out what happened to Cane and deliver his final manuscript. Harglow instructs Cane's editor, Linda Stiles, to accompany him. When Trent and Stiles' search takes them to a small New England town, odd visions begin to convince Linda that the line between fiction and reality is blurring. Can Trent and Stiles find Cane and end the source of the world's impending doom? And to take you through the cast of this fine film, Sutter Cane is played by Jurgen Prochnow, John Trent is played by Sam Neill, Jackson Harglow by Charlton Heston, Linda Stiles by Julie Carmen. And you can read the rest of the main cast in the transcript. It includes some cool actors like David Warner, John Glover, Bernie Casey, Peter Jason. Like I said, it's there in the transcript. Now that you know the plot, if you wanted to see a trailer for In the Mouth of Madness, you can do that with the YouTube link and the links in this episode section at the bottom of this transcript. I also put any IMDb screenshots I reference or external links there, as well as lots of other clips from the film and some commentary on it available online, including the location of one of the film's most known scenes. Okay, so let's get into what I liked about this film. First up, let's start with its fun setup, which brings 2 points. The movie begins in a psychiatric ward. Trent has gone off the rails, stuck in a padded cell, scribbling crucifixes on the wall with a black crayon. The outside world is in the throes of something wicked, and Trent, a recently sane man, may have the answers. It's a kick-ass setup that builds the atmosphere and plunges us straight into the action. It fits the old adage of beginning in media res, the fancy Latin term for in the middle of things, allowing us to pique the audience's interest and then flash back to the story's more humble origins. And it's effective in that we see Trent, totally insane here, once a stoic skeptic. Something wild must have changed his mind, and as the audience, we want more. The flashback structure, something Lovecraftian, is embedded here with purpose. Next up, It's the movie's pulp horror touches, which adds 3 points. Carpenter and crew frame deliciously chilling yet subtly playful moments throughout the film. There are mundane moments elevated to little bursts of fear. For example, instead of your basic knock at the door on Trent's cell, an eye-catching, ghastly-looking hand raps on his window instead. And then there's the film's arguably best-known scene, when a madman with an axe stalks Trent. It's so effective because the camera work builds suspense. In the scene, the camera's depth of field keeps the foreground in focus and the background visible. From our audience's view, Trent and Robinson, his handler, sit in a restaurant, having a conversation. And in the background, the dreary-eyed madman creeps closer and closer until he hacks at the nearby glass window. As the axe wielder smashes through the glass with his weapon of choice, the "here's Johnny" moment comes. He leans down, a strange twist in his odd-looking eyes as he asks Trent, "Do you read Sutter Cane?" It's the best way to do your exposition, mixing a scare that holds the audience's interest while advancing the plot. Later in the film, there's a long shot as Trent and Styles arrive in Hobbs End. From a distance, we watch them walk about, taking in the empty town. Then, the camera rapidly racks focus, bringing a bloody knife lurking in the foreground into view. It's a deft touch to let the audience know this little town has big trouble. See what I did there? It's all these touches that are just masterful. They're never overindulgent, just little pinpricks of Carpenter and crew having fun scaring you. Now for the icky tentacle monster mutations and twisted faces, which adds 4 points. You'll find a few jump scares, but horrific visuals are this movie's scary weapon of choice. And in a real coup for the movie, none other than industry giants Industrial Light and Magic, who did Star Wars, were on board for the visual effects. The well-known K&B EFX group took care of the practical effects. They're well known for things like The Walking Dead. The Lovecraftian-style monsters are the highlight of the film. Spooky, scuttling terrors. They're like Krang from Dimension X, if you know Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles '87 animated series. They are morbidly adorable. You almost want to pat them on their multiple heads. They'd surely nip your fingertips off. Excellent makeup gives us creepy, twisted faces of those falling under Cane's dark influence. And an honorable mention goes to the sappy, black door keeping the otherworld Old One creatures at bay. Though at one moment, Cane scares Trent by making the world blue, which sounds more like an excuse to have an indigo eclipse party than a threat to make one afraid. Still, while it's not scary, it's incredible to watch Trent panic on his blue-filled bus. Next up, it's Enter Not Quite Sandman, which adds 2 points. Carpenter wanted the film to open with Metallica's then hit song, now classic Enter Sandman, but couldn't. Instead, multi-talented Carpenter composed his own spiritual successor, along with the help of composer Jim Lang and guitarist Dave Davies. I was afraid starting from imitation would create a mess of indigestible cheese, but it's a kick-ass rock fest. At first, the tune is a knockoff of Sandman. Choppy crunch, distorted guitar, and thumping drums. Then, it rises up with a familiar drum roll on the snare, but it goes down a path of winding guitar wailing all its own, like something the Lovecraftian monsters can sway to and fro to. And now what I'm calling Let's End Things, which adds 2 points. And before I go any further, a major spoiler alert here. This is going to ruin the ending of the movie for you, so if you don't want to hear it, just switch that chapter skip. Still with me? Okay. John Carpenter often ends his movies on bleak or intriguing notes, and it's cool that he continues it here. This film ends in a pretty ballsy way, delivering the madness the title promises and then some. Despite Trent's efforts not to deliver Cane's manuscript, Cane and his monster overlords succeed. Their followers turn the world into a hellhole of violence, bringing about your basic Armageddon. But Trent? He goes to the theater to watch the film version of the novel, laughing at himself on screen. So now let's talk about what I didn't quite like about the movie and thought could have been improved. The first one is called Characters. Can you tell me more about yourselves? And it takes away 3 points. The acting is reliable, but the film's characters can be more like mannequins than people. With his cigarettes and suits, freelance insurance investigator John Trent could be a Raymond Chandler-style throwback, a hard-boiled detective. But Trent is more of a hard-boiled egg, bland and serviceable, even with salt and pepper. He's bereft of the wry humor or rigid guy mold to make the character fun, nor did he play against the type in a novel way. His cynicism and denials suit the plot, but just need that kick of wit about them. Bad guy Sutter Cane philosophizes a bit here and there. All in Black, he's a Stephen King spoof that turned out to be Neil Gaiman. But what's his beef with planet Earth? We're not told. Maybe Cane was just a kid with the world's most excellent bug collection, and when the Lovecraftian horrors spoke to him, it all made sense. We'll never know, and it's a shame. And then we have to mention the lack of character friction, which takes away 2 points. Trent makes a pass at Linda when they meet, but she turns him down. It makes him look a little sleazy, and the movie misses opportunities to follow this up and meaningfully create natural friction or attraction. During their car trip to find Hobbs End, Trent plays a joke by reaching into his glove box and waking her from a nap with his air horn. Who the shit has an air horn in their glove box? Better scenes were needed to give wit and charm to their exchanges. Next one is called So Evil, What Misdeeds Did You Have Planned for Tonight's Entertainment? And this one takes away 2 points. Like many promising movies, the film drowns in Act 2, becoming aimless and confusing. We are confronted by an angry mob of Hobbs End villagers with axes, ready to ruin your day, but they spill no blood. Cane is camped out in a church, there for the confronting. But while Linda ventures in, Trent isn't in a hurry to investigate. Shouldn't Trent be trying to unravel this mystery and save the day? Instead, he's the subject of Cane's rising power, mostly just victimized or denying all the realities in front of him as not reality. The movie would benefit from close call rescues or a plot device that could win the day for the characters if they could only reach it. Instead, our powerless heroes dawdle about and are terrorized for the run of Act 2, and it's not fun. So adding everything up, In the Mouth of Madness earns 6 points. On my scale of let's not watch, should I watch, or go watch this movie, I'm gonna give this one my should I watch rating. In the Mouth of Madness is a mixed bag. It's like a kid's Halloween bucket after a night of trick-or-treating. Sure, there are full-size candy bars from generous houses to chomp down on, but there are also veggie sticks from that house on your block that smells like broccoli. Carpenter directs the film's production and effects into creep-out pulp horror delights, and he creates a badass rocking theme song. Some visually exciting scenes will stick with you. But the characters don't inspire, and while the script has a fun setup and brave conclusion, we slog through the second act. In the Mouth of Madness was a vehicle for another excellent John Carpenter film, and in some ways that's delivered. But he's towing a problematic script to the finish, keeping the movie from truly flying like his best works. Still, it's way more fun than frustration. Fans of Lovecraft will undoubtedly enjoy the film, and any fan of Carpenter's or horror in general should check it out. The legacy of In the Mouth of Madness. So what's the legacy of In the Mouth of Madness? Well, like many Carpenter films, it received mixed or average reviews when it rolled out, yet it has a lot of fans today. It didn't make too much money, seeming to break even on its $8 million budget. It certainly has fans within the horror community, especially those who like H.P. Lovecraft or cosmic horror. And as a tribute to the works of H.P. Lovecraft, there are plenty of references and themes throughout the movie. The title itself is a play on Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness. Some say that In the Mouth of Madness was prescient because it highlights how the written word and the power of belief can change the world. This theory is backed up by Carpenter himself, who says the film was misunderstood when released. But for me, the words of an author changing the world work just fine as something to build a horror movie around. They don't quite land a metaphor like, say, John Carpenter's They Live does against consumerism in the Reagan era. And just recently, as in October of 2025 now, you can actually buy the novelization of the movie. Check out your bookstores for In the Mouth of Madness by Sutter Cane. In the Mouth of Madness, the film, was penned by film executive producer and writer Michael DeLuca. But it's said that Carpenter, having initially turned the movie down, did work with DeLuca to sharpen it up. After working with K&B EFX on this film, the crew would continue working with Carpenter on more of his movies. This was Sam Neill's second John Carpenter movie, having played David Jenkins in 1992's Memoirs of an Invisible Man. Although Memoirs of an Invisible Man is the least John Carpenter-directed movie of them all. It doesn't even have the iconic John Carpenter's font, as in the film belonging to him, above the title. That's of course because the studio and Chevy Chase were very much in charge of that film, but that's a story for another day. Sam Neill is, of course, always going to be Dr. Alan Grant from Jurassic Park to most of us, no matter what he does. But he's had quite a run in horror or thriller movies, with roles like this movie, Possession, Omen 3, The Final Conflict, The Dead Calm, and Event Horizon. Julie Carmen has had a long and successful career, working with directors like John Cassavetes for Gloria and Robert Redford for The Milagro Beanfield War. You can also find her in horror things like Fright Night 2 Part 2 and Tales of the Walking Dead. Apologies to any actors I didn't highlight here. Did you know that according to IMDb's trivia page for the film, the word Hob is an old word that used to refer to the devil? So yeah, the town of Hobbs End, translated as Devil's End, should obviously spell trouble. Another funny piece of trivia, the car keys that Julie Carmen's Linda swallows when Sam Neill's Trent is trying to flee, those are made out of pasta. Yeah, delicious keys. Lastly, it says the people on the street watching the man break the diner window with an axe are not extras, but just people watching the movie shoot. Free extras, I guess. Okay, that's all I have for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you have not watched it, go check out In the Mouth of Madness. And if you have seen it, what do you think Trent could have done to stop the apocalypse that he didn't try? You can reach out and let me know on Blue Sky using the link in the transcript, or just search for Will Turntail. And if you like this episode, would you take a minute or two of your time to leave me a review wherever you're listening from, if you haven't done that already? A few people have left reviews, and I want to thank whoever did that. It makes a massive difference. Or if you're listening on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. New episodes of this podcast come out on Tuesdays. Next week's episode will be more of the John Carpenter series with Prince of Darkness. It's the plucky John Carpenter movie that, like so many of his, didn't get love at release, but gets it now. But I think it's seemingly the one everyone thinks people don't know is actually good, but so many people have recently talked about it, how good it is, that it's not a secret anymore. I don't know. Still, I've got some of my own viewpoints to add to the conversation, so tune in for next week's episode on the excellent Prince of Darkness. This podcast episode is a production copyright of Overegged Media, LLC, located in Sacramento, California. Reference photos linked in the transcript are copyrighted by the Internet Movie Database. This review's factual information was gathered through online sources like Wikipedia, IMDb, or interviews. Misrepresentations and errors are possible, but unintentional. The introduction music was Neon Laser Horizon by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. And the exit music and additional music are also by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com, also licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. The names of those songs are Canon in D for 8-bit synths, Crypto, and Aerosol of My Love. Goodbye for now.